Hi, I'm Danny, and today I have an unhaul for you. I actually was going to do this with my unread shelf too, but I just felt a little guilty, I guess. Not really guilty, but hesitant to unhaul books that I have not read yet, because who knows, there might be a book or two on there that I might really like, but I'll never know just because I've lost interest in reading it. So let's get to the book. Okay, so first I have Nowhere to Run by Mary Jane Clark. This one was given to me by somebody. I don't know who, but it just doesn't sound like something I'd want to read. It sounds like a kind of a thriller thing, and I'm very picky about my thriller mystery books. I think this is kind of a crime mystery thriller, and I'm very picky when I do read those. I've never read crime books, I don't think. I haven't found one yet that interests me, unless you count Jack the Ripper, but that was more of like thriller mystery. There is a crime in it, but still. But this one just, it's not catching my interest. I don't think it ever really did, so unhauling it. Next I have The Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot. If you saw my last wrap up, then you would have seen that I really did not like Mia in these books. I'm going to just stick with the movies. If I ever do give book 2 a try, it will be far down the road, nowhere in the foreseeable future. So I didn't like this one. I do not ever plan to reread it. Actually, I'm pretty sure I will never reread it. So it's going bye-bye. Next I have Pendragon by D.R. MacHale. This was a book that was bought for me a long time ago. I think my mom might have bought this for me. Like, I might have just gotten into reading, or this might have been one of the books she bought me to try and get me into reading just before I found Sex and the Single Vampire. She also bought me that one, and that one started all this madness. But yeah, I have no interest in this one. I'm pretty sure it's a middle grade book, and middle grade novels just don't interest me. So, bye-bye. Next I have Grey by E.L. James. I like the 50 Shades of books, but I don't know, it just, number 1 is not my favorite. Number 2 and number 3 are definitely my favorites. Number 1 is kind of like a prequel to number 1 and 2, which is weird when I say it, but that's what it feels like to me. It's kind of like, what was that book I read? A Court of Thorns and Roses. So if you look at Akamath and Akatar feels like a prequel book that builds on all this stuff. Even though it is book 1, it feels like a prequel once you read the other 2. And that is exactly how I feel about book 1 in this series. And then just reading it again from Christian's point of view was interesting to see how his mind worked in certain things, but not something I'd want to reread or want to keep. So it's going bye-bye as well. Next I have Fairy Keeper by Amy Barrick. This is supposed to be about a 16, 17-year-old girl, I believe, and she feels, in her mind, and the story feels more like middle grade. And as I said before, middle grade never catches my interest at all. I was so looking forward to this because I've read about fae, but never about fairies, and finding about a fairy keeper sounded really interesting. And it was such a disappointment. I don't even think I finished the book, because at a certain point I just could not do it anymore. And that's saying a lot, considering this book is barely 230 pages. And I don't even think I got into the adventure before I was just like, no. No. So this one is going bye-bye. Oh, and if you're wondering what I do with all these books once I'm done, I have a used bookstore in my town, and I exchange them there. They give you credit for certain books. Let's see, this one is originally worth, where's the price? I know the price is in here somewhere. I think it's like $14 or something. I can't remember. But basically they'll take whatever the original paid price for is on the back of the book. Let's see, this one's got it, doesn't it? Ah, okay, yes. So like this book that I'm also unhauling, it says the original US price is $25. So they'll take that $25 and they'll probably give me $10 for it, or maybe $15 for it. Something like that. They'll add that credit towards they'll add that credit towards the book into their file keeping books, and they will use, I think, $2 towards every book I buy. So if I buy a book that's $4, then I only have to pay $2 for it, that kind of thing. So that's where all these books were going, and that's actually where I've gotten quite a few of my more recent books, because that's where I've been doing a lot of my shopping lately. You'll probably have seen some of those in my next wrap-up, because I don't think any of them were in my last wrap-up. So probably my next wrap-up is when you'll start seeing them. Okay, the next 5 books I have are all in the same series, and actually 2 of them are doubles. I got this one from the library for like 50 cents, I think, and didn't realize I actually already had it. But I have read this entire series 1.5 times. I read it all the way through, except for the final book, once. And then I read it again about halfway through, and then I kind of restarted it again. I made it to book 5 so far. And I don't think any of these, yeah, all these come after book 5. But first, the second half time and the most recent time have been on audiobook. So I don't ever plan to reread this series, and I don't think I'd want to, because it's kind of more funny to listen to. The first time I read it all the way through, except for the final book, I read with my grandmother, and it was actually fun. It was kind of a bonding experience for us, because I had just got her into reading. And so it was kind of something we both wanted to read. So I take turns reading, and then she take turns reading, and then I take turns reading, kind of a back and forth like that. But like I said, I don't ever plan to reread these things, and I got these all on Book Outlet, so I got them for really cheap. And considering the original price is $25, I think I got these maybe for like $5 each. So I've got a huge credit coming my way that it's actually worth more than what I paid for the books. These are all by Mary Janice Davidson, and they are, so I have Undead and Undermined, Undead and Unsure, Undead and Unfinished, and Undead and Unwelcome. Next I have Dorothy Must Die by Danielle Page. I liked it for most of the book. And towards the ending, I started getting a little fed up, like, okay, come on, can we speed this up? Can we speed this up? And then what I thought would be the ending of the book jumped into more books. So I think there's like 4 or 5 books in this series now. And what could have been done in this book has stretched on to 4 more books. And I honestly have no interest in reading those 4 books. Because like I said, for this one, for most of the time, I was really, really interested. And then like, I don't know, like 100 pages before the ending of this one, it just seemed to be dragging. Like they were trying to drag out this thing that could have been done in just a few chapters. So yeah, I have no interest in reading the next few books, although I was so interested to see, because Wizard of Oz as a kid was one of my favorite movies. I haven't read the original books, but the movie was like my fave. I watched that thing 50 billion times. Ask my mom, she probably still remembers most of the lines from it. And so I just have no interest in continuing on with 4 more books to see something that could have been accomplished in this book. So I'm going to say bye-bye. And I am interested to try a few of Danielle Page's other books. I think I have one of her books on my shelf right now. I think it's like, is it Stealing Snow? Yes, it's Stealing Snow. So I am looking forward to that one, because I think that one's a Snow White retelling, or is it a Nutcracker retelling? I can't remember. I think it's Snow White though. But either way, I want to see if I prefer that kind of thing, because I think she's pretty well known for retellings. Dorothy Must Die, and then Snow White or Nutcracker, whatever it is. And so if I'm hoping to really like that one, and if I don't, then I'm probably just gonna have to give up on her as an author. Next I have Uninvited by Amanda Marone, I think her name is. This is about a girl who breaks up with her boyfriend, and then 2 days later I think he's found murdered. And then a few days after his funeral, I think, he starts coming to her window every night begging for her to let him in. When I first started getting into reading, I used to scour Barnes & Noble's website looking for more books. Because back then I only read vampire books, because that was the only thing I was interested in. But thank God I've branched out. And this one was something I had built up so high in my mind that I was completely crushed by the time the ending came. The beginning was pretty much how I imagined, the middle somewhat, but not quite, and then the ending was just like crash and burn. And so like I said, was so disappointed when I finally got to this one. It's a lot shorter than I thought it would be. If it was any longer, I probably wouldn't have been able to finish it. But yeah, it didn't end the way I thought it would, and I don't ever plan to reread it, so bye-bye. Next I have Nobody's Princess by Esther Freischner. This is part of a duology, which actually, now that I think of it, I think I do have book 2. It's probably in my packed up books of my TBR shelves. So whenever I find that one, I'll also stick it into this pile. And this is about Helen of Troy in her teenage years, which, since I haven't read book 2, I don't understand how she ended up making it to Troy. Because, yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But like I said, it probably makes more sense if you read book 2, but I have no interest in reading book 2. About halfway through this one, I was ready to give up on it, but I pushed my way to the ending, hoping it would pick up again, and it didn't. So, have no interest in reading this again, rereading this again, and have no interest in reading book 2. So, you guessed it, bye-bye. Next I have Furies by Jill Wolfson. This is about 3 girls who, I think they do some sort of ritual, and then they find out they have the power of the, no, I'm sorry, they don't do a ritual. There's about 3 girls who really have no connection to each other, who go to high school and suddenly find that they have the power of the Furies. They can cause pain and misery anywhere they like, and as time goes on, they start to become kind of dark and evil, which I actually kind of liked. But the resolving of the issue towards the end of the book happened so quick that it felt kind of rushed, and like the author ran out of ideas on how to lead towards the ending, so she just kind of threw it in there. And yeah, it kind of made the ending a letdown for me. I actually hoped that they would stay as they were, kind of like, what do you call it? What do they call those people who come into high school shooting? It's like, justice collectors? Is that what they're called? They kind of felt like that. They would, you know, like make the popular, mean, bully people miserable. And they pretty much left the people who didn't bother them alone. But I really did like it. I just was hoping for a different ending. Like maybe they'd stay as they were, but they'd only mess with the kids who needed messing with. I don't know. But it was kind of a letdown towards the end for me. So, never plan to reread this. So, bye-bye. Next one might be kind of a surprise for those of you who like the book. For those who have been with me for a while, you probably know how I feel about this book. And that is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. Towards the beginning and some of the middle, I really liked it. And then as it continued on, I got less enthusiastic about it. And then by the ending, I was just like, what the hell is happening? And yeah, I think I actually did buy book 2 before I finished this one, which is one of the reasons I stopped doing that. Because I think this is like the 3rd time it happened to where I will buy or pre-order the next book, and it'll show up, and by the time I finish the first book, it's like, I don't want to continue on with this. But of course, I've got the second book now. I hear the second book does get better, but I can't. I might do the audiobook before I unhaul book 2, but I know I don't want to reread book 1. I'm not even sure if I want to audiobook book 2, but we'll see. So never plan to reread this one, and I'll probably remove my bookmarks in here before I turn it in, which I've actually got quite a few, and yet I didn't seem to enjoy the book too much. They were probably just parts where Mare used her powers or something. I don't know. But yeah. Bye-bye. Next one might also be a shocker because everyone seems to love this book, and for a little bit I kind of liked it too. Had to push my way towards the ending of it, and that is Landline by Rainbow Rowell. This book, according to everybody, is one of their favorites of hers. At least everyone who I've asked. It's one of their favorites from her, and if this is their favorites, I don't want to read any of the other ones. And this is before, what's that one that's like a fan fiction right of it? It's like Simon Snow, is it? It's kind of like a Harry Potter fan fiction of her fangirl world. I can't remember what it's called. Carry On? Is it called Carry On? I don't know. But yeah, this is before that book came out. This was everyone's favorite book by her, and I'm like, well, if this is their favorite, I don't want to. And it's probably also because it's contemporary. I can't read about normal people if they're not doing something interesting, like if they find out they have magical powers, or if they're solving some sort of mystery, or if, like you, it's from a stalker's point of view. If it's not something like that, I can't really just make myself read it. So this one bored me almost to tears. It's going. Okay, last two books now. Next I have Hexed and Charmed by Michelle Keys. This one I was looking so forward to, and I believe I bought these like buy one get one free, or buy one get this one half off, something like that. And while the romance in this one was kind of interesting, it wasn't enough to make me want to read this one. And the magic isn't that interesting either, which is also something else that could have made me want to push through to this one, because it's only a duology, so this would have been the last book. But I didn't want to read this after reading this. So they're going bye-bye. And hopefully they'll find a home with someone who actually would enjoy them. Okay, I found one last book actually. This is a book I was actually kind of enjoying, and then I was on Goodreads and I ran across the book, and I'm reading the summary of it, and I'm like, oh my god, this sounds really good. Obviously from reading it, it's the second book, so I better go to see what the first book is. And I found out it was actually this book, and it just completely ruined the entire book for me. It pretty much answered the question it answered the question that I was the whole reason why I was reading a book, because it's kind of a play on the chosen one story. You know, is she the chosen one? Is she not the chosen one? And because of reading that summary, it answered that question for me, and I just lost all interest in the book. I think I read another 2 chapters and then I just completely disinterested. And that is A Shadow Bright and Burning by Jessica Clues. And like I said, the summary answered that question for me. So just lost all interest in it, and I have no interest in continuing this or reading the next one, so bye. Well, that is my unhaul video, and I think this is only my second unhaul. If I have 1 or 2 other ones, which I think I only have 1, I will link them below in case you want to watch that. And I will see you guys in my next video.